I'm in the process of working on my third book, and this book is nice, and it's all about kind of like being misunderstood. And I have, this face. Sometimes I have a resting bitch face and don't realize that I have it, right? And you may look at somebody and be like, oh, she looks stuck up, she look bougie, blah, blah, blah. But actually may be cool. So have empathy for people of where they are in their life. You got to have empathy for people. Everybody ain't got to like everybody. And that's okay. It is okay. But learning how to have a boundary and setting a boundary. Focus on positive relationships. Be around people who fill your cup at the end of the day. Everybody grew up differently, so people approach things from a different mentality. If you grew up in the hood and you grew up in a certain type of hostile environment where you had to defend yourself and you had to be triggered and you had to be on edge and be defensive, that was your upbringing. That's probably how you react to things. Like when somebody is insecure and intimidated by you, that is a them problem. Don't shrink yourself or shrink who you are to accommodate people. You can be neutral, but don't ever shrink yourself and your personality and who you are, because your personality is you and was given to you by God. What's up, you guys? It's your girl Bianca B, and welcome to the Bianca B Show, where we talk about business, finances, and friendships. So I'm kind of excited to talk about this next topic because it's something I definitely have dealt with my entire life, and it's how to deal with people not liking you, and how can you evolve and grow and, stop feeling upset that people don't like you. I know that sounds crazy, but, in business, people are either going to like your brand or not like you, and that's just the moral of the story. So I'm going to give some tips if you feeling like you hard on yourself and you like, what should I do if this person doesn't like me and things like that. I'm going to give my tips and the things that I've learned throughout the years. So first and foremost, you have to have a self-evaluation. And I kind of talked about this in my last podcast that I did by myself. You have to start evaluating yourself and your personality traits and what is your personality trait. I definitely highly recommend people take the personality test. I forget which personality type I am, but I'll insert it here. And everybody has a different personality, and that is just what it is. I think you also should know your, of course, if you're into astrology, what your sign is, what your moon sign is, what your rising sign is, does play a part as well into, your personality. Also, what is your love language? Also, what is your attachment style too? Everybody has a different personality at the end of the day, and some people gravitate towards people more than others, and that is okay. But you have to start, self-evaluate. Okay, what areas do people say that I'm the most flawed at, and why? So for me, for example, something that was very common was my attitude. I had to work on my attitude. I ain't even gonna hold you. It's still something that I work on every single day. It's something that I definitely struggle with because I personally feel like I didn't have an attitude or wasn't a certain way, but I can see how when you step back and you look at yourself, I can see how a person may have taken what I said a certain way, right? So I've learned throughout the years, which has still been a hard journey, is learning to just self-reflect on yourself, and also, knowing oneself. I feel like it's the most important thing. I feel like a lot of times people are followers. And so, as I babble, I want to say the first thing you have to know is know thyself. You know what I'm saying? Know your personality trait. Know what ticks you off. Know your triggers. I think that is the first step of really knowing who you are. A lot of people don't know who they are. And this goes to my next step. Once you have identified who you are as an individual, and every day we're growing and we're learning and we're changing. I do believe that people can change and grow up. The second thing I would say is that know what type of people trigger you. Honestly, Know what kind of people trigger you, because certain people bring out certain characteristics out of you. One person can be in a relationship with you and say that you're one way, and then somebody else could have had a totally different experience with you that was peaceful. So I really think it depends on, like, knowing who triggers you and who brings out those characteristics that you don't like. And it's okay to be around people that you don't like and they may not like you. It is okay. Know what type of people those are. Know what type of things trigger you. For example, you may be an extrovert and you may not really gravitate toward people who are introvert. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? So know what type of people trigger you. I've had certain people that I've dated that brought out certain characteristics of me that I didn't like, and vice versa. So knowing what triggers you, right? So we did a little self-evaluation. The second thing is knowing who trigger us. And also, staying true to your values and who you are, right? And your beliefs. Everybody grew up differently. So your lifestyle may be different from another person's lifestyle. It does not mean that their lifestyle is better than yours. It doesn't mean that your lifestyle is better than theirs. It's just everybody grew up differently. So people approach things from a different mentality. If you grew up in the hood and you grew up in a certain type of hostile environment where you had to defend yourself and you had to be triggered and you had to be on edge and be defensive, that was your upbringing. That's probably how you react to things. Like, let's take Krishan. I love Krishan, by the way. I think that she's great TV. But, she grew up in an environment where she had to defend herself and fight for herself. So her approach to life may be different from yours. You know what I'm saying? And so, some people may not agree with her actions, but that's how she grew up. So, she has to do that self-evaluation. She has to do that self-reflection. And you can see her growing and changing slowly but surely, but that is her upbringing. You know what I'm saying? And so we can't judge her for that. We can't, be upset at her about that. She may not be a person you want to hang around. I'm just using her as an example. That's a celebrity. But, there's tons of people who came from that lifestyle of where they had to defend themselves and fight for themselves, and all they know is fighting. And it's up to them as an individual to heal that. You know what I'm saying? So if people don't like you because you may have came from a background of, fighting and being aggressive, and that was your upbringing, you have to work on that. That's a you thing, right? So I also want to go to this next step, right? This next tip as I reflect on that. So I'm going to go to the next tip. Have empathy for people, because you don't know their upbringing or what they've been through. So I'm in the process of working on my third book, and this book is nice, and it's all about kind of like being misunderstood. And I have, this face. Sometimes I have a resting bitch face and don't realize that I have it, right? And so people may be like, oh, you're not approachable, you're this way, you're that way, but I may be super sweet. You know what I'm saying? You may look at somebody and be like, oh, she looks stuck up, she look bougie, blah blah blah, but actually may be cool. So have empathy for people of where they are in their life. You got to have empathy for people. Now we're gonna go to the next thing, boundaries, right? You can work with a person and not like a person. You know what I'm saying? You can have family members that you love and don't like them. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's okay. Knowing what triggers you, but you as an individual have to have self-control over how you react to those types of people. So, everybody ain't gotta like everybody, and that's okay. It is okay. But learning how to have a boundary and setting a boundary, like for me, I had to set boundaries with certain family members because it wasn't aligned in the way that it needs to align. Like, I'm not going to allow disrespect, and I'm not going to allow people to disrespect me. So, you have to learn how to create boundaries. And there's this amazing book called Setting Boundaries or something. This lady, she wrote it. It was written by a Black woman. Amazing, incredible book. I'll also list it below. This book is amazing because you have to have boundaries with people, right? Everybody ain't got to like everybody, but there's a boundary and a level of respect that all parties have to have for one another. You know what I'm saying? And so the last thing is like, focus on positive relationships. Be around people who fill your cup at the end of the day. There's certain friends that every time I'm around them, I just feel positive. I feel good vibes. I feel happy. I don't have a circle of friends that I don't feel that way towards. Like, there's not somebody that I feel negative around or negative energy. Like, my friends that I've been friends with for a long time, it's nothing but positive, good vibes. And sometimes, sometimes you the problem. And I had to take accountability for that too as well. Sometimes you are the problem. And that's where the self-evaluation comes from. But at the end of the day, Naomi Campbell said, if somebody don't like you, and if, you are feeling like I intimidate you or you intimidate a person, that is the them problem. That is not a you. And always remember that. That's a them problem. When somebody is insecure and intimidated by you, that is the them problem. Don't shrink yourself or shrink who you are to accommodate people. You can be neutral, but don't ever shrink yourself and your personality and who you are, because your personality is you and was given to you by God. You know what I'm saying? So it's your girl Bianca B. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at It's Bianca B and Bianca B Show. Comment below any other tips that you want to share. And subscribe to the podcast. And it's your girl Bianca B. Bye, guys. Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B, Bianca B.